Hi, I'm Mike from Mike's Carburetor Parts. I'm going to be doing a video on rebuilding this Marvel Schebler carburetor, one barrel carburetor. This one happens to fit a Wisconsin engine, but all the Marvel Scheblers of this design are the TSX type are all very similar. If you can do one, you can do them all. Now there's basically three types of this Marvel Schebler. There's a B, and C. The A has a fixed power jet adjustment, so it won't have this on it. There won't be any way to adjust it. The B type, which is this one, has the large adjusting screw on it. So this is a B. There's also a C type. It also has an adjustable screw, but it's much smaller and it goes at a diagonal. So a little bit of trivia. The identification tag on this one is right here. This is what I used to find the carburetor kit. It says TSX 770. So I take that and I put it in my search box on my website and click go, and it came up with a kit number 5007. That's a very popular kit for these. For the tractor types that are like this, for those of you that are working on tractors, Oliver or Alice Schebler, whatever it is, excuse me, Alice Chalmers, we have tractor kits also, and they're pretty good kits, and they come they're more complete. They come with a new throttle shaft generally, and a lot of times a new choke shaft, at any rate. But when you start talking about throttle shafts, it gets very specific, so the kits have to be very specific for one thing, and so for certain tractors. Anyway, I kind of got off there. So we're going to rebuild this. First we're going to disassemble it, and once we get it all disassembled, we'll put it in a bucket here. I got this black bucket I put all my parts in, and we'll take it apart. And first we'll take the power valve adjuster out. So as you see, there's a spring on it. That's your power valve. And we'll take the ball screws out. I've had this apart. I want to make sure everything came out okay. I didn't want to waste your time on things that were frozen, and there was plenty of them. Anyway, that's your float bowl screws. We got your idle mixture screw right here, and when we get it apart, I'll show you how. Well, maybe you can see it. You got a little hole right here, and that's for the idle mixture screw. And when you close your throttle valve like that, you see this little hole here, you still have a way for the fuel to get in. So at idle, you're going to get a little bit of fuel and air through this little hole here, and what this does is it basically adjusts the mixture of the fuel and the air that's going into it for idle. So that's basically this pretty simple little concept there. Let's see, these a lot of times will come in the kit, your idle mixture screw, and they generally do. So get a new one, so you'll be able to just throw this away. For any reason you got to use one, make sure there's no ridges or marks on the tip right there. Okay, so we did that. We'll take the two halves apart, and here's our little venturi thing. And then so we got our float here. Kind of see where that one's adjusted. They'll generally, well, we'll get into adjusting when we're in, but generally end up being about level. So we're going to take our float apart, and that's just by taking this pin out here and removing it. We're going to test the float. By the way, you can buy these. We do have these floats. What you do is heat up a pan of water. Doesn't have to be boiling, but it needs to be pretty hot, and then you immerse this in it, and if there's any cracks or holes in it, bubbles are going to come out right away, so it'll be easy to see. So there's that. Okay, this is your main jet here. Some of these will have an economizer jet. They'll go off right over here. Looks just like this one. Alright, got the needle. We'll get it out of there. The seat. Notice there's a gasket that'll go around the seat. The new one will have one on there. Okay. Take this little clean out plug out here. Let's see. Got it loose. Now, this was kind of froze in. So what I do on these kind of things, I'll get a impact screwdriver and put it in there and hit it while I turn it and bang on a little bit, and they'll usually come loose that way. You can also heat them with a torch here if you need to. Just take your time on those kind of things and you know, work with them with it a little bit till you get it loose. You know, don't force it, you'll end up stripping everything. So just take your time. You don't want to have to drill it out and all that kind of thing. Little gasket. I think that was from the power adjustment. Okay, so we're going to take out the throttle plate now and the throttle shaft. We want to get it nice and clean so that it gets good to action. And I usually mark these. I put a little mark there, and then I'll put a little mark on the throttle body here. Kind of a deep one so it stays there. And because I want to put it back in exactly the same position. These need to seal, and if you put them in backwards or something, you may leave a little gap in them. I actually believe these can these are offset, so they kind of go in one way, but you can flip them over and then it may not seal quite as good. So it's kind of worn to place right like that, and we don't want any air around them, so we'll get it put back same way. Now on these screws, check the bottom if they're mushroomed over. A lot of times they'll get mushroomed over so they don't vibrate out and fall in your engine, which you don't want for sure. Get your little Dremel tool, and if you don't have a Dremel tool, buy one. They're worth having around. Anyway, you can grind these down level with the shaft, the two ends of the screws, and get it all ground down, and then these will come out fairly easy. They always do. If you don't grind them down, there's a good chance you're going to break them in the throttle shaft. Now, if you happen to have a tractor where you're getting a kit with a throttle shaft, a new throttle shaft, I guess that would be okay, but in many cases they aren't available. So take the two screws out, and there we go, and it simply pulls out. And we're going to clean this. After we get it put it through the cleaner, we're going to buff it out with our buffer, with our wire buffer, and get all any kind of dirt and buildup off of it so that it moves freely. You got a little packing here. It's actually just a little brass bushing that goes in here. It'll just pop out like so. You'll get a new one in your kit, or at least you will with our kit. Okay, so that's what it looks like right there. The open end goes in the inside. Alright, and that's it. Generally you don't have to bush these. They usually wear pretty good. So by the way, your identification tag, I just happened to see notice this on some of them. They're on the side here. But almost all these have some identification tag, and the Marvel Schebler always starts with a TSX, or a DTSX is another type. So you want to look for that. Always match up your carburetor number when you're buying a carburetor kit. That way you're sure you're getting the correct kit. There's a lot of kits for Marvel Schebler, and you may get one, everything's the same except for one little item, and that one little item will drive you crazy. Well, there you go. So we're going to come out with the main nozzle here, and let's see, what am I using here? A little 3/8 deep socket is what I'm using here. Oh, and by the way, another tip, get your digital camera out and take as many pictures as you want about you know, where things are positioned, how they're in. See the little gasket on that? We'll have to replace that one, but just want you to notice there is one. And that comes out. Now let's see, there's nothing down there that comes out. It's a little... Oh, here's your drain. Couple of different drain. You got a screw here. You got a drain bolt. This was another one that was hard to get out. I had to bang on it a little bit. This right here, this is a porous brass thing, whatever, I'm not sure what it's called. Anyway, you don't take that out. We'll just clean it and blow it out real good. Some may have a felt packing in here that you will replace. So, yeah, and those are both, all that's at the bottom of the float bowl. Alright, let's see. So we got it almost stripped. I'm going to take out the choke. And I'll tell you why. It's kind of complicated, so be sure you take digital pictures of it so you know how it goes back in there. You know, make some marks, whatever you got to do. I take a digital picture. You just leave it, even if I'll probably remember, but if I have any kind of question at all, I just refer back to my picture. Anyhow, this choke valve, you want to work very free or it's going to give you trouble. So I shouldn't be using a crescent wrench on this nut, but that's what I have in front of me. Anyhow, you want all this stuff back in the same position. This is a manual choke. And in simple terms, when the engine's cold and you're first starting it, you will close it, and it's be closed like that, and that allows fuel to be sucked in to the carburetor until the engine can get started. So there's the little spring that goes on there. And same thing on these screws. Check the other side. These look like they might come out real easy. They're not mushroomed over. And so I haven't had this one apart. I could have used a little wider screwdriver. I always use a screwdriver, the tip as wide as the screw as you can, as close as you can. That'll keep them from slipping out of the screw and damaging the screw. You know how hard it is to get a screw in and out once it gets damaged. Some of these little screws are very hard to find. It's not that you can't find them, they're just hard to just run down the hardware store and pick some up sometimes. They're kind of a special size. Okay, so once you get the two screws out, you see the flap just comes out and goes in just like this. Then here's our rod. See, it's very sticky in there from all the dirt and stuff. And this one's actually been cleaned, so I'll take this and then buff it up real good so that it moves real loose in there. And, you know, if it leaks out through here a little bit, it's not going to hurt anything. It's not that big of a deal. This has, let's see, I'm not sure if that's replaceable. It looks like a little bushing right there. I'm going to leave that in for now. Make sure I have a new one for it before I replace it. But it looks like it has another one of those brass bushings. And that's about it for taking that apart. And so what we're going to do now is we'll put it in the cleaner and clean it. And we will now I have a soda blaster. Don't use anything, any kind of bead blasting on any carburetor. It takes the media will chip away at your metal, could damage it. The little media will get stuck in the orifices and whatnot. Soda you can pretty much wash out of it. So anyhow, there we go. We'll continue on with putting it back together as soon as we get it all cleaned up. Thank you for watching. Hi, Mike from Mike's Carburetor Parts. I'm doing a series of videos on the Marvel Schebler one-barrel carburetor, the TSX type. And I did a previous video where I disassembled this carburetor. I cleaned it, and you see I painted it with some cast iron type of paint, and I do that just because these things, they rust up real quick if you don't. This cast iron paint I use stays on here pretty good. So it's all cleaned up. You see I already put this plug in incidentally, in case you notice that. People are always asking me what to use to clean their carburetor. Unfortunately, the good stuff is no longer available to the average guy. Well, even to me. But I use ultrasonics. At any rate, I just asked a friend of mine what he uses. He's been in business for about 40 years, and he uses Gunk Hydro Seal 2. That's the brand Gunk, and it's Hydro Seal, Roman numeral 2. And he cleans it in that, and then he sprays it off to get all of that off when he's done with the Berryman's B12 carb cleaner. Just sprays it real good and gets it in, and that evaporates into the air. So he says that's about second best to the stuff we used to use in the old days. It's probably the best thing out there at this point. So give that a try. I don't know where you get it, but at any rate, it is on the internet. I happen to find it there. Okay, so one thing I did is I wanted to make sure that the mating surfaces between the bowl and the throttle body are flat. So now I have a flat grinder that I can just run this over the a surface grinder, and it makes it flat. But if I didn't have that, of course, then I would take a flat file and just go from each direction and try to get all the high spots off. And the same here. And if you can see it, you can see a little low spot here, and then I hit it with the file, and here's a high spot. So you can get those surfaces down to where they'll mate and not leak, and you won't have a leak problem. Okay, leakage isn't too much of a problem on these, but at any rate, there's something you can do. All right, so next we're going to take the needle and seat. The seat has a little gasket on it. On some of these carburetors, on this one, I will use a little of this Permatex anaerobic gasket maker, and I put it on here very sparingly around where the gasket is, and just a tad bit. You can even try it without it first, and then I put it in there, and because the carburetor is old, they tend to leak, or can leak, right here underneath where the gasket is. And that's a problem that the average person would never find, and you wonder why you're getting too much fuel, and you'll spend a lot of time on it. So you can get a leak in there even with the new gasket. So what we're going to do is test it now, and I already plugged this hole up with a plug, which you'll have to do to test it, and just put your finger over the seat and blow in the fuel inlet, and if you can hear air going through, you know you got a leak. If you don't, you're good to go. Or you can suck on it like vacuum. Same thing. Okay, so this one's pretty tight. So there we go. So next thing I'm going to do is put on the throttle shaft, and first I'm going to put the packing in. There's a little rubber packing here, and you want to put the open end towards the outside. You see there's the closed end, and that goes down in there. And then you got your little brass washer goes in there like that. You'll probably have to tap it in. Be careful so you don't mess it up. because you only get one in your kit. You do get a new one in our kit anyway. And then you can put your throttle shaft, which I have all buffed out and got all the dirt out of it, right there. You see it goes like that. Okay, and if you remember on our previous video, we marked the butterfly here. There we go. And I marked the throttle body. So there's a little mark right there. So I know which way it goes. I want to put this valve in the exact same way it came out so that I get a good seal around the outside. If you put it in backwards or something, it may just not seal very well, and you're going to get same as a vacuum leak, and you'll have trouble getting it to idle down. If you're having trouble idling it down after you finish your rebuild, that could be your problem, among other things. But I've had that problem myself, so I watch it pretty closely. I put a little Loctite on the screws before I put it in. I don't want them falling out, and I get them both started, and I hold the valve down kind of tight. Sometimes the holes are oblong, that'll move around a little bit, so I want it as tight as possible when I tighten these down, because you don't want any more leakage around the valve than you have to. You'll have a little. I can see a little bit of daylight through here, but not bad at all. That's not too bad. That's probably just from wear. Alright, so the shaft is tight, got a new seal in there. We're good to go there. Okay, so let's put in our main our jet, and we have two of them in this one. Your A and B type, I explained what the difference was there. We'll have a jet that goes into your where your main nozzle goes, and let me see if I can find the two. Yeah, they're here somewhere. Here he is. Okay, so we have two of them. One will have a bigger hole in it, and the one with a smaller hole goes right here. Now, as you're taking these things apart, of course you're taking digital pictures and you're making notes of these kind of things, because you get this real sinking feeling when you got two and they're two different sizes. You don't know which hole they go in. Alright, so if you happen to have an economizer, that will go right here. It's also another jet like these others. I can't think of whether it's a big hole, small hole, or what right offhand, but anyway, you're going to take note of that when you take it apart. Okay, so this other one goes down here, and this is only on the A or the B type of Schebler. If you got a C type, you're not going to have this in it. And the C type basically does not have this, what am I doing? This adjusting pin that goes into it. Alright. So, bigger hole, get it going the right way. And incidentally, I don't know if you remember, when I took this apart, I didn't take this out. Well, it was missing. So I had to go find another one. They're not generally sold in this kit. Now my tractor kit might have them, I'm not sure. Okay, so there I felt it screw in there. But if you're unsure, get your flashlight down there. You'll have threads in there, of course, for the jet. If you got threads, you probably need your jet. Alright, so I suspect somebody lost it when they did this and just left it out. And that might actually work on this. You know, the fuel today with the ethanol, you got to burn more fuel to get the same mileage, so you got to run more fuel through the carburetor. And of course the jets on these older ones are made for the old gasoline, so some things you can do to counteract that is you can take your jet and drill a bigger hole in it. Now that's not for the faint of heart. I'm not doing it here. I'm not even going to show you how to do it because you simply run your carburetor. But anyway, you can take that jet and drill it one size bigger to accommodate the fuel of today. Problem is, if you mess up, that's it. You're done. All right. Let's go ahead and put in our main nozzle. I already got a gasket on it here, and let's see. Yeah. Okay. So, got the gasket on it. This uses a 3/8 socket, deep socket on it. Okay, snug down. You don't have to over tighten anything. So there we go there. Let's see. We have our Venturi. Well, let's put our gasket on here. And then we can get our Venturi in there. Okay, and we put our, got 2 float pins in this kit, and we'll use the one that fits, of course, which is this one. Center it good. Oh, okay. Silly me. All right, a Viton tip needle you got to put in there. This one comes with the clip on it, so let's put the clip on it. Like so, and it goes around the float like this. Okay, all right, so you can see I got the needle in there. All right, put it on there like that. Now what that's for is when the float drops, you know, keep in mind, see, when the float goes up like this, actually drops, that spring's going to help pull that needle up out of the seat. So if it happens to get sticky or at all with gunk or anything, which can happen on these, they sit around a lot, that's going to help pull it up. So don't forget the spring. Probably would work okay without it, but we got it. So we're going to measure. You can use one of these that comes with a kit, or everybody should have a nice metal ruler around. This one's in 64ths. And I set it to 1/4 inch, which is the specs for this one. Yours could be different, but it's probably pretty close to that. And I'm going to measure from the top of the throttle body to the bottom of the float. I'm not going to put any pressure on it. You don't want to mess up your Viton needle. And 1/4 inch front and back. I want it level in case they got bent, both sides. Okay. So this one looks right on. If I have to adjust it, I'll bend it right here. Okay, when you do that, don't put pressure on your needle. You may have to take it off to do it. What I do a lot of times is I'll put a screwdriver or something up there and hold it, and then I take the needle nose to bend it. Okay. Alright, so I made a correction. You may catch the Venturi I had upside down. It goes in there just like that. And so we're ready to put the two together, and they'll go together without forcing anything. If you have to force it, there's something wrong. Alright, get the screws in here. Oops. Got one long one that goes here. Alright, so I see we need to put our idle mixture screw in here, and the kit comes with two new ones, and so you can see here's the old one, and you see it's a difference in the tip. Tip does make the difference, and it comes with a new spring. Now what happens, they get tightened down too much, they get ridges right here, and so you have to replace them, but fortunately all my kits come with a new one. And we're going to screw it down just until it gently seats. Okay, and we'll turn out about one turn. And when we get it all mounted and the engine running, we're going to have the idle just about where it should be, and then we're going to you can do it by engine, by the way the engine sounds, which is the way I do it, and I just turn in about a quarter turn time till the engine starts to lope down, and then turn it back out a half a turn. You can also put a vacuum gauge on it, and you'll get your best steady vacuum with the best idle. And these are just for idle. It has nothing to do with high speeds or anything, the intermediate speeds. It's all about idle. So anyhow, that's your idle mixture screw. And let's see, we got to get our plug in the bottom. Now you can put a little Loctite on these if you want, or liquid, you can put some liquid Teflon, which I have done. Don't use the tape, and put very little even if you use the liquid. These can sometimes leak right here. Anyway, this is so you can drain the gas out of it. Gets the water out. If it's been sitting for a while, be sure to open that up and drain the water. Okay, so now we want to put the power adjusting needle in here. Where's the we got a gasket that goes on it. Okay. Yours may have one a little bit different, or may not have any at all. Type C doesn't have one. Now you got to get this. It's got to fit down in the little jet that goes right down in here. So just take your time and fish around for it a little bit, and just lightly seat it, and then turn it out a couple of turns. And there are good instructions on the instruction sheet on how to adjust it, but in general, with the engine running at the governed speed and under load, you turn the power adjusting needle clockwise until the engine begins to, now first of all turn it out a little bit, clockwise until the engine starts to lose power, and then you back it out until the engine picks up power and runs smoothly. And there you go. Yeah, if you have a problem with acceleration, you know, turn it out to allow more fuel in. Alright, and actually that might even help with the, now that I think about it, with the new fuel today with the ethanol. And if I haven't mentioned it, we have a good additive on our site that will help the ethanol problem. It's a real problem, especially these things, things like this that sit around all the time. I'm going to put the choke valve in. Oops, where's the stem? Goes in like so. And then this goes in here. Now remember, you took digital pictures. Yours probably would be different than this. They're all a little bit different, depends on what's going on. Got these two little screws. They're kind of down in there, so I use this little point. Nice handy little tool for putting points in. And I'm going to put a little Loctite on it again so they don't fall out. And this helps me get it started. Like so. Okay. Okay, so we took this all out so that we can be sure and get it all nice and clean. We don't want it binding. However, it's not a big deal on this one because it's all manual choke, so you can pretty much force it. But at any rate, there you go. And I'm not going to put it all back together. There's a little clip that goes on here that was missing on this, and it used a little spring, etc. Oops, excuse me. This goes on here like that. I have to get my picture out, see what direction it was now. But yours is probably going to be different than this anyway. So I'm not going to finish it. This one's wrong anyway. Okay. Let me check my picture, make sure I can put that in the right direction. I don't remember now, but no big deal. Okay, so we got our little plug that goes down in here. We don't want to remember that, or the fuel is just going to run right out of it. And that pretty much takes care of the rebuild of the Marvel Schebler carburetor. And they're, as you can see, they're not real hard to do. There's a few things that you need to know, which we went through, and you should have a pretty successful rebuild there. So anyhow, thanks for watching, and have fun with yours.